Okay, guys, get comfortable. We got about 30 to 45 minutes here. It's going to be a kind of a fireside chat feel. I guess this is a good place to start. So, Pat, you don't really know who you're speaking to right now, so I'm going to kind of intro them. So, James mentioned it a little bit. These are actually the most important people in my life, to be honest with you, because we got James here, our CEO, who signs my paychecks. That's a big deal. We have our clients in the room who pretty much decide how much are on those paychecks, which is also a big deal to me. And then I have my friends and family in the room. My mom is here. Love you. Hey, Ma. So that's who you're dealing with. And then, folks, if I can introduce Pat to you guys in a way that you don't really understand yet, that's kind of what tonight is all about. You all know NBA champ Pat Connaughton. You know Notre Dame Pat, likely. You may even know Baltimore Oriole baseball draft Pat. But tonight we're going to talk a lot about real estate Pat, With Us Foundation Philanthropy Pat, professional speaking Pat, just a lot of the stuff that Pat's trying to do off the court. So let's get right into it, Pat. Thank you for being here. The timeline that I'm going to try to take us on tonight, of course, the conversation will go in a bunch of different ways, but the first thing we'll talk about is, we're going to go way back to Pat's early life in Massachusetts where he grew up. And then we're going to talk about his college life at Notre Dame, and then when he gets drafted to Portland, his first couple years as a pro. Finally, getting traded to Milwaukee. We'll talk all about Milwaukee, the real estate stuff going on here, and what he plans to do with the Bucks. And then I'll ask some questions about your future. So the first question I have is, tell us about Pat growing up in Boston, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, appreciate you guys all coming. What I heard from Devin was, families in the room. I actually wear a chain that says, family over everything. And for me, family doesn't just mean blood related. It means the people who you care about, the people who have been around and supported you through thick and thin. And so now I'm a little bit more nervous to talk to you guys because you guys are the most important.
Made me look good.
Yeah.
Made me look good.
For me, I grew up, I'm an only child. My mom's the youngest of 10. My dad's the youngest of 8. So safe to say I have a lot of cousins, and I never felt like an only child, but I was always one of the youngest. So I grew up, and my older cousins, my dad, they were always into sports. So I was always playing sports, and I got immersed in that at a young age. And since as far as I can remember, and hopefully this doesn't ruin the wish, but I was wishing to become a pro athlete on my birthdays when I blew out the candles. And it was always to be drafted in 2 sports. It was always to play 2 sports. There was something about the inability to choose which one I liked more. And I played, football, soccer. I played a lot of different sports growing up. I really loved the team aspect, the competitive aspect. I loved everything kind of about it. And so young Pat I got pictures on my phone that a lot of people have seen, but no one has on their phone, of when I was in 5th grade. I was short and chubby. My dad called me Juicy. I was definitely not somebody who was destined to be a pro athlete. I was not even destined to really play at the high school I went to because it was 25 minutes away, 1,400 all boys. It was a heavily competitive athletic school, even though they didn't really recruit for sports. It was more about academics. And so young Pat growing up, he just loved sports. He loved to be out there playing. He loved to be out there playing with his friends, whatever it was. And his dream was always to become a professional athlete.
That's excellent. So these folks now have a little bit of an idea about what your real estate life looks like because of these packets. We have some statistics on there. But staying with this early life theme, it's been noted in previous podcasts and on the internet that you were on job sites with your dad as young as 12 and 13 years old with your buddy Joe. What was that like, and did that spark an interest in real estate in you? And be honest, because if I was as good as you at 7th grade, my mind would have only been on sports, and the summer job would have kind of been a drag.
Yeah, well, look, it wasn't fun. It was not fun. I wasn't that great at sports in 7th grade, so there was some time there where I had to have a job because who knew what was going to happen. But, my dad was a general contractor growing up. So, he built buildings and houses for, clients and people who hired him, et cetera. At a young age, he came, I'm actually an Irish citizen. He came, from an immigrated family from Ireland. And so they went back every summer and he worked on the farm. So since he was young, he was working. So I was definitely going to be working. And so I hauled sheetrock up and down the stairs. I cleaned up the job sites at the end of the day, put it all the stuff in the dumpster. I did a lot of stuff that was not fun, summer in Boston. It's hot, it's humid. I'm there from 9 in the morning till 4:35 at night. I'm doing things that, quite frankly, I didn't want to do, but it taught me how hard work. It taught me and showed me firsthand experience as to what went into the nitty-gritty of real estate, right? What went into the actual taking a job that one of my dad's clients purchased that didn't look like something anybody in this room would want to live in, and then how did the transformation over the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months? And now granted, look, I didn't work all that. I worked for the summers, but I got to see some jobs that started in August and didn't end until the following July. So I worked on it at the beginning and at the end. I got to see the difference, and I got to see the value that was created. I got to see a project transform from something nobody wanted to something people were going to pay a lot of money to have or rent or whatever the case may be. And so that first initial experience in real estate was eye-opening for me. I thought it was really cool. I mean, even earlier when I was 3, 4 years old, 5 years old, my dad would take me to work on Saturdays, and I thought it was the coolest thing, probably because I had a little tool belt that I got to wear. But at the end of the day, like I was immersed in that from a young age as well. And, I looked up to my dad quite a bit. So to be able to share the job sites or to be able to help impact, even if it was very small, the outcome of some of the job sites was really cool for me.
Excellent. Appreciate that answer. So let's move forward a little bit after childhood, going into your college career. I know in the later years of high school, you had D1 offers for baseball from just about everyone that you ever wanted to. How did you land at Notre Dame, and talk about kind of what happened with the baseball thing there?
Yeah, so I'll start where we just left off. My dad kind of came to me when I was a sophomore in high school, and he said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to play college sports. Like, at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do. I had a dream of playing college sports. And he said, well, if you want that, if that is your goal, your actions have to kind of match that goal. And he had said that to me once before when I was in 6th grade, and I said I wanted to dunk by 8th grade, and he bought me a weight vest, and he said, what you do with it will determine whether you're able to do it or not. Now, at the time, I was still being called juicy, so no one really thought that was going to be possible, but I jumped up and down on the ledge outside, 5 times a week. Took 2 days off, but 5 times a week. And by 8th grade, I dunked. And so similarly, when I was a sophomore in high school, my dad said, if you want this to be the case, you got to have to treat it like a job. And so I fortunately got to stop working on job sites, but I had to be in the gym working out from 9 till 4. I had to be in the gym treating my body, my athleticism, my desire to be a college athlete like a job. And so for me, I was fortunate to have, baseball scholarship offers since I was a freshman in high school, but basketball took a little bit longer. I had to work a little bit harder at it, and I think I fell in love with that work. And so when it came time to deciding where to go to college or what I wanted to do in college, or deciding between going pro out of high school for baseball or, going to college and trying to play 2 sports, I really looked at it as what's going to put me in a position where I'll have more options when I'm done. I wasn't destined to be a pro athlete. Like I said, even going to college, no one really thought I was going to play basketball in college. They all thought I was going to play baseball, if anything. And so when I was fortunate to be able to play basketball, I wanted to be able to give that, my best effort. And I felt like going to a school in which regardless of what happened in sports, I'd have an opportunity to do something in business or something in, whatever the case may be. I mean, Notre Dame obviously is a great place, and they have a great alumni network. So I wanted to be able to do it all on one campus at the end of the day. I wanted to be able to manage my time well enough to where I could go from playing against Marquette as a freshman on Saturday on CBS to baseball practice that night to study hall Sunday morning, and be able to really engulf myself in the process of doing a little bit of everything to putting myself in a position to have success in whatever field I was fortunate to go into.
Mission accomplished. So it's been reported that you missed out on as much as $1 million when you were young. The Yankees gave you an offer to say, put everything else to the side, come play ball for us for $1 million. What was that time like in your life? How did you say no to that? Who did you speak to? What was kind of the thought process?
I talked with my parents a lot, my mom, my dad, and But at the end of the day, my parents, even when it came to the college decision, they did a great job of, while I grew up in an Irish Catholic family from Boston with a bunch of Notre Dame gear, they did a good job of trying to remove themselves from the equation when it came to influencing my decision. But when it came, I talked with them a lot, when the Yankees kind of came to me with that offer out of high school, and they said, look, it's kind of up to you. What do you want to do? But here are the things we think you should think about. And what I always tried to do and continue to try to do is do a list of pros and cons, but try to mitigate the risk of it. And I felt as though if somebody was willing to offer me that type of deal to come play baseball at that age, I was still in control of how much better I got if I didn't go that route, right? So if I went to college and I was fortunate to play 2 sports at Notre Dame, I was still in control of getting better. If you're going to offer me that now, if I improve over the next 3 years, which you think I'm going to do anyway, if you're willing to offer me that, then that offer should be there or should be even better in 3 years. So that was kind of my thought process behind it. I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to excel in any of the 3 different realms, if you will, basketball, baseball, or academically in business.
Cool. So you're very vocal about, of course, you love Notre Dame. You still love it. How was school there? Did you enjoy your classes? What did you study? Were you a good student?
Yeah, look, it was hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It was hard. Yeah, one of the reasons I went there was because it was a place I knew academically I may not have made the cut of making it into that school if it wasn't for athletics, right? So I wanted to kind of take advantage of that and get an education that I may not have been fully deserving of at the time. And it was hard. I mean, I went through the undergrad business school, the Mendoza undergrad business school, and there were a lot of classes. I took summer school classes. I was there every summer, working out, doing things for basketball, but also getting ahead academically. And I put myself in a position where I was fortunate to graduate in 3.5 years. And I did that because I didn't know what was going to happen with basketball and baseball. And I didn't know, if I got drafted after my junior year in baseball, could I convince the team to let me go back? I only had a semester left of school and I wanted to play basketball. And so there were a lot of things that I tried to plan ahead on. But the academics were challenging. But I think what I noticed was it was about the effort level, it was about the caring level, it was about what you showed to your teachers while you were at school. I went to the study halls, I went to the extra, class workshops that we had. Like, I wanted to succeed, and I think when they saw that, they were willing to help kind of educate me on the tools that were going to help me succeed at Notre Dame.
That's awesome. Any specific professors you want to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, actually, one of them, Carl Ackerman. I met him on my official visit. He happened to teach at Arlington High School, which is where I was born and raised, in Arlington, Massachusetts. And he told me a story that stuck with me to this day, and I actually took advantage of with him later on. Brady Quinn, who's a renowned quarterback from Notre Dame, he used to help Brady Quinn prepare for what he was going to do with his signing bonus. He was a finance professor, and he used to help Brady Quinn prepare for what he was going to do when he got drafted because of his accolades and because it was known he was going to be drafted at a high level. He used to kind of mentor Brady Quinn in that aspect. And I remember thinking, I want to be in that type of position. I want you to be mentoring me because we know I'm going to be drafted in a pro sport. I got to work on the pro sports side of it, but I'm at least going to develop that relationship with you. And so I had him in class, and then I still talk to him to this day about some of my decisions on the financial side. And, he's been a great resource for me, and it's been really cool to see where I started when we first started talking to where I am now when we continue to talk.
I'm sure Mr. Ackerman's very proud, so if you're watching this,
yeah.
Awesome. This is a great segue because you kind of talked about Brady Quinn. He knew he was going to be coming into some money, and he just really needed some advice. So in college, you came into a lot of money with the Baltimore Orioles drafting you and giving you that signing bonus. We've talked about real estate a little bit already. This might be a good time to talk about your first property in South Bend.
Yeah, so I kind of explain it like this. My dad was a general contractor. As I got older, he was fortunate to have some money to flip a few homes on the side. And so those were the job sites that I started to work on a little bit as I got older prior to my sophomore year in high school. And so I got to see what he did specifically. And when I was fortunate to be drafted after my junior year of college, I got a $428,000 signing bonus. And Notre Dame.
21 years old when you got that?
Yeah, 21. Yep.
A lot of money for a 21-year-old.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I, with the education Notre Dame had taught me, like, I didn't know how long pro sports were going to last. I didn't know if I was going to get drafted in basketball. I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I kind of approached my dad and I said, hey, look, I'd love to invest this in something. I'd love to invest this in something that I have some passion for and a little bit of education in. And my dad had actually done a house in South Bend my freshman year because it gave him an excuse to be out there to watch some of the basketball games. And so we bought a house. We bought a house for, $428,000 after taxes for me was right around 200. So we bought a house for about $150,000 and put about 35, 40 grand into it, and I actually lived in it my senior year. And the funny side story about that is when a few of my aunts showed up right after we purchased the house, they wouldn't even go inside the house because of what it looked like. And so we fixed it up. I got to see it from a different lens. I got to see, obviously, on the job site, which I had seen in the past, but I got to see the financial side of it. I got to see what it was like to own a property, how much things cost, how real estate is so unique, right? Like if I want to buy a pair of shoes, like Air Max 90s that I'm wearing now because I like shoes, they're going to be $120 no matter where I buy them, whether it's in Milwaukee, whether it's in Boston, whether it's online, it doesn't really matter. But in real estate, a 2x4 in South Bend, Indiana might cost $1.50. A 2x4 in Boston is going to cost $3.50. Like there's so much uniqueness to the real estate game that I didn't know and that I learned, granted, in a small sense because at least that project size compared to what we do now isn't that large, but I got to see it firsthand and I lived in that house my senior year. And after my senior year, we sold it and I made like 35 grand on it. And it was a really cool process for me to see and be a part of. And it really gave me my first splash into, real estate from an investment standpoint.
That's excellent. Do you still own any homes on campus?
I do. I actually own a home right across the street from that home. I sold that home and I bought a piece of land for $50,000 right across the street after I got drafted into the NBA.
Cool. So I've heard you speak on other podcasts and in other articles about how real estate for you is not just a money grab. Like, so many people are doing real estate these days. It doesn't take much except for a little bit of capital. But I heard you speak about the purpose that the home on the Notre Dame campus serves and, the athletes and the families that are able to stay there while their kids are in. You want to talk about that? Because I thought that was cool for me to hear that it's not just quick, buy this, sell this. You care about kind of what's going on within your development.
Yeah, for me, I love the business side of it. I love taking a home or a property or a piece of land and the creative side of what can go there, what problem can it solve. And one of the things for Notre Dame, for specifically the home and some of the properties I have out in South Bend that we're talking about is, student athletes. There are so many student athletes' parents that want to go watch them play, but they don't really want to or maybe can't buy a home, and it's only going to be for 4 years. So how can they have a place to stay? And on football weekends, good luck finding a hotel. Good luck finding a hotel for a cheap price, so or close to campus. So how can we solve a problem as somebody who was a student athlete and whose dad did have the ability to buy a house and flip it up? And how can we make it so that these parents and these extended family members can create those memories and cherish those times where they were able to go and see their family member or son or daughter compete with the University of Notre Dame on their chest, because it's only a 4-year stint. It is a very special place, and it's something that everyone should kind of be able to experience. And so that was kind of the start of it. When I bought that piece of property and built that home, I wanted to rent it to student athletes' parents on weekends. We got a few other buildings now going on out there, one 27-unit building in which it's the same thesis. How can we rent those to some student athletes' parents throughout the 4-year experience so that they can experience football weekends? Even if their son or daughter is a spring athlete, football weekends out there are a great time to visit, and everyone's having fun. So how can they go out and utilize it during football season, go out and visit their son or daughter and watch them play for the University of Notre Dame? And that was kind of where the idea of real estate for me, and having it be a business that's more than just the monetary value, really started.
Love it. And we'll talk plenty more about Three Leaf specifically and real estate, but now let's transition from Notre Dame to Portland. So you got drafted, not by Portland, but you ended up in Portland. How did your life change when you became a professional athlete?
It didn't really change much except for the fact that I had accomplished a dream that I had since I was 3 years old. But what I kind of quickly realized was, your dream is to become a professional athlete, but as you get older or as it becomes realized, it can't stop, right? Like, it's not just to become a pro athlete, it's actually to have some success in pro sports. It's actually to remain a pro athlete. It's actually to continue to be able to play the sport that you've loved, and it just so happens to be a job. And so for me, what I quickly realized was there was a lot of work I had to do. The position I played in college or the success I had in college, that doesn't translate to the pro level. And so for my first 2 years in Portland, I didn't play a whole lot, but I looked at myself in the mirror and I knew, hey, I got to get better. I got to slim down. I got to lean up a little bit from a body standpoint. I got to become a little bit more athletic than I already am. I got to work on my ball handling, my shooting. It's got to all become a little bit more consistent. And I got to study the game. I got to know that, look, in college, some guys can get away with being really fast. Some guys can get away with being really strong. Some guys can get away with being really tall. In the NBA, they're all of that. They're all fast. They're all strong. They're all tall. They can all shoot. Like, you got to really find ways to better yourself and to look yourself in the mirror and admit what you're not good at. Because in the NBA, quickly exploited, you're only as good as your greatest weakness. And so, for me, in becoming a pro athlete, I just realized, you really have to love the work. You really have to love the process if you want to remain a pro athlete.
That's excellent. So how about off the court? Now that you had this stature as a professional athlete, that opens up a lot of doors for you. What type of business endeavors did you get up to out in Portland?
So the best advice that I got when I became a pro athlete was during rookie transition program, RTP they call it. Every rookie is required to attend this transition program, and it's 3 days in like Newark, New Jersey. So it's nowhere you want to be. You're not allowed to leave the hotel, or else you got to come back the following year and you get fined like 50 grand, something crazy. But it's a really important program because it teaches you about all sorts of stuff, drugs and alcohol. It teaches you about finances, media training. It teaches you all sorts of things. But one of the best words of wisdom that I got from that was take advantage of the platform that you now have in being an NBA player. And what they kind of expanded on that with was, everybody wants to know you're an NBA player. The people sitting courtside, they all have successful businesses. They're all there for a reason. The people around town, whoever it is, like, you now have this platform, but you're not going to have it forever. And I think what I quickly found and quickly realized was, as a professional athlete, you have this great platform, but if you're lucky, it lasts 10 years. A lot of guys, it only lasts 3, 4, 5 years. The great ones, it lasts 15 years. But I'm a 22-year-old kid, and if you're telling me if I'm lucky it's going to last 10 to 12 years, and that brings me to 32, 34, like, I want to jump in and get to know people now. I want to know how I can learn more about other businesses, learn more about strategic partnerships, and for me personally, learn more about how to get involved and grow a real estate company or something that I had passion in. And so taking advantage of my platform and meeting people that, quite frankly, I had no business meeting. There are a bunch of them. Don Peebles is one who came and spoke to us, and I still have a relationship with. He, runs about $3-4 billion in the real estate game. And, Bob Moore, he's a Notre Dame guy who does a ton of real estate in Texas, or, there's countless other ones, Andreessen and Horwitz for, venture capital. Like, I got to meet all these people and sit in all these rooms and all these offices. And the reason was because I was in the NBA. But the reason I was able to continue to have a relationship was me. So I was trying to take advantage of the NBA to get myself in these doors. But what I think some of my peers struggle with is getting in the doors is great, but what these people respond to is you continuing to ask questions, you continuing to foster that relationship and staying engaged. And I think that's what I learned quickly.
So how about some professional brand deals that you got a part of? I know I've actually got the list here. I know you worked with Michelob Ultra, Crown Royal, Woolly is the wallet company, Old Spice, Coons Auto Group, Cuts, the t-shirt company, and Buzzer. What are some fun parts about doing these brand deals, and is there any brand out there that you'd really hope to work with in the future?
For me, I'm going to say something that I'm going to contradict here in 1 second, but for me, I like to work with brands that are organic to me, right? Like I like to work with brands. So Cuts, for example, I know Steven, the founder of it, and I wear their shirts all the time. Like I wear them 24/7. I love it. It's something that I actually had the idea of when I was really new into the NBA was, can you start a clothing line that fits athletically built people? Because they're either too boxy or they're too short on the sleeves, whatever it might be. And so when I got to know him and got to be involved with them, it was completely organic because I was looking for it. It was a problem that I thought needed to be solved, and they did it. And so it was great. I will say the reason I'm contradicting is the Crown Royal, Michelob Ultra ones, I don't even drink. So those maybe aren't the best deals. However, they're great brands, they're great companies, and that's kind of what drew me to them, as well as winning a championship. It never hurts, and there is some monetary value, so I can't always plead the high moral card, but it's just, I feel like those strategic partnerships, like Buzzer, for example, I think they're really solving a problem within sports. And I try to really find things that are organic to me, right? Like Buzzer, for example, the next generation, Gen Z or whatever they want to call it, like they're not all watching entire sporting events. They're not sitting there watching 9 innings of baseball. They're not sitting there watching an entire NBA game. They want to know what players are doing well. They want to know what players are doing well on their fantasy team. And what Buzzer is basically doing is allowing them to get alerts from Buzzer on when Damian Lillard has 48 points and he might get to 50, or when their favorite team, the Milwaukee Bucks, is in a close game with 5 minutes left, they can buy the rest of that game for $1. And it's just finding ways where on their smartphone, their tablet, whatever it is, they can tune in to what they want to tune into, because I feel like that's kind of the way the world is going towards having access when you want it and how you want it. And it's within sports. So it's organic to me, and I like to be a part of things that are organic to me, because you can sell as much as you want to try to sell, but at the end of the day, we can all tell when someone's truly passionate about something they're talking about versus when someone's not. And I think that's the next level of strategic partnerships, is being able to see why somebody believes in something, or if they even believe in it.
Yeah, I think the consumer these days is really smart to see when people aren't really invested in it. So good for you for that. So, we got about 15 minutes left. I'm sure nobody would be real mad if we went over 5 or 10 minutes, but I do want to transition to Milwaukee, because obviously, so we want to talk about Milwaukee. We got to talk about Three Leaf. We got to talk about the foundation. I want to talk about the commencement speech at UW-Madison that you did. But first, just a general question. How did you feel when you found out you were traded to the Bucks? So
actually, I didn't get traded to the Bucks. I chose to come to the Bucks. So that's something that's actually, no, people don't know that. So when I was, after my third year in Portland, I was the only guy in the Trailblazers to play all 82 games. And then the 4 games of the playoffs, so all 86 games. And I had a conversation with the GM after the season, and they didn't want to offer me a qualifying offer. They were going to basically let me walk. And so when I was talking with my agent, I wanted to find a place that was a great fit, a place that I had some knowledge about, both from a city standpoint, but also from a basketball standpoint. And so for me, I had known what Coach Bud did in Atlanta. He had just signed here. The GM, John Horst, I got to know pretty well.
Great guy.
And has been, more than a great guy. And Giannis, Chris, like I just thought there was an opportunity for me to play, but an opportunity for me to be a part of something and a part of a culture, a winning culture, that is what I care about most. And so I had offers from other places that were of more monetary value, but being back in the Midwest, I mean, Notre Dame was in the Midwest, and obviously there's a big Notre Dame contingent in Chicago, and I like the small city feel. I saw all of the, excitement, excuse me, around the Bucks and how much the fans care about their teams within Wisconsin. And so for me, I wanted to be a part of a place that I could play, a place that I thought was going to be putting themselves in a position to win, that I could have a role in. And I like the way the ownership group was investing into Milwaukee.
Cool. Aside from away games, had you ever spent any time in Milwaukee?
No, so only away games. Yeah. I will say I knew about Milwaukee because I had some friends from the Notre Dame days that grew up in Mequon, went to Homestead High School, cool. And played sports at Notre Dame. So I had heard a lot about it, but I had never actually spent time here.
Cool. Well, I won't dox you and tell people exactly where you live, but Pat's got a property pretty close by here. Talk about real estate in Milwaukee. How have you picked out your deals, and what do you think is the biggest opportunity for this city when it comes to real estate, and what is Three Leaf looking for?
So for me, I like to find deals that I can create value in. My biggest thing is I've been fortunate to grow up around somebody who has had a knack for creating value in properties with my dad. And so finding places that we can create value in, finding places that, for lack of a better example, are the worst house on the best street. And so how do you find those types of properties, those types of buildings? But for me, where it really kind of started as far as the transition, which took place when I got to Milwaukee, was I started to realize, buying homes and flipping homes was really cool for me to see, but I'm fortunate to be in this position where I have a stream of income. I have a great stream of income. I'm fortunate to do what I do and be compensated, handsomely for it. So the buying and selling of homes, like, you're a little bit at the mercy of the market. Like, people have to want homes. They have to be in a buyer's market. And there's a lot of risk that can be associated with that as far as carrying costs and certain intricacies that kind of go into it. And so when I got to know all of these people that I had no business knowing and sitting in all these offices I had no business sitting in, I started to realize a lot of these really wealthy people are in real estate, but they're in real estate with these portfolios. They're buying different buildings, or they're developing different buildings, or they're putting themselves in position to where you might make a little bit less in the beginning, but over the long term, you're owning these assets and you're creating these cash flowing portfolios. And so I learned a lot more about that. And that's where, when I got to Milwaukee, I had been transitioning into trying to learn about how I can own assets, own properties, and have them be things that will pay off in the long run. Because the thesis that I came up with was, we have 10 years if we're lucky in professional sports, 12, 8, whatever it might be. As pro athletes, we're expected to make that last now for the next 55, 60, 70 years, whatever you're fortunate enough to live. And a lot of us have dedicated all of our lives to the sport in which we're a pro in. So how are we going to find a means of income after that's done if it's not within the sport, if it's not coaching, if it's not teaching basketball, if it's not a college, pro, high school coach, whatever that may be? And so for me, I wanted to try to find a way now to invest into growing a portfolio that could pay off as a passive stream of income when my playing career is done. And I started to take meetings in different cities with guys who were doing it. Like I mentioned, Don Peebles. I started to read books about it on airplanes. And what kind of came to fruition was a lot of different of my teammates asking me what the heck I was doing. And why is this second, third, fourth year guy taking meetings in hotel lobbies or reading these books on planes or sending these emails? Like, what is he doing that I'm not doing as an 8th, 9th year guy? And it kind of organically came about where, as I got to Milwaukee, I had a lot of guys within the NBA that wanted to learn more about what I was doing and eventually wanted to get involved in what I was doing. And for me, I was in a unique position because there's an inherent distrust with athletes in business from time to time. We all hear about those horror stories. We all have seen, or maybe you haven't. If you haven't, you should watch the 30 for 30 broke, where a lot of pro athletes who have made 80, 90, $100 million are now bankrupt. They have no money, which to me is unfathomable. But you start to realize a bad business deal can make you broke as quick as buying 19 Rolls Royces. Like, things can go fast. And so for me, I had always planned on doing real estate. I'd always planned on doing real estate with my own money. I was fortunate to grow up around it. I was fortunate to have an education in it and was now learning from these mentors in different areas of real estate. I wanted to create something and be a part of something that guys could also be involved in because they wanted to be. It wasn't something I planned on doing, but they wanted to get involved. And so I wanted to create this stream of income for these guys when they're done playing and create this business that can benefit both sides. I think sometimes in business, you got the best business, in my opinion, is win-wins. I think a lot of times in business, especially within athletes, you have people that are coming to you and want you to invest, but they're going to charge all these fees so that they're winning before you're winning. And what I've found within the culture of sport is if I'm focused on trying to score 20 points a night, I'm not focused on trying to win a game. If I'm focused on trying to win a game, I might score 20 points some nights, but I might score 5 points other nights. But as long as we're winning, that's all I care about. And so similarly in business, if I can get some of these guys who trust me because I'm coming from the same perspective, because I have experience in this field, and because I have, some education in it, and my goal is to teach them why we're doing what we're doing and how we're doing it, you can kind of create this really cool culture of these pro athletes with some businessmen and women who have been mentors to me investing in a real estate project or in multiple real estate projects or in all of my real estate projects and create a vehicle for them to have a stream of income when they're done so that you're not finding all these athletes who are going broke 5, 6, 7 years after they're done playing.
Excellent answer.
Yeah, that was a lot.
No, that's actually great. We could go forever on Three Leaf, but I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the foundation. And I really actually did want to go deep on Three Leaf and ask you if there's any of the current players you're around that are, in your ear about real estate or asking for advice, but we'll tease that. We'll save that for another conversation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your current 501c3, the With Us Foundation. Just what's going on there?
Yeah, so again, my big thing is things that are organic to me. Real estate, grew up around it, the business beside it or behind it, like that's all organic to me. It's been a part of my life since I was a kid. The foundation, the With Us Foundation, which will actually transform into the Pat Connaughton Foundation, and then it'll have some pillars under it.
That's breaking news, folks.
Yeah, that hasn't been announced yet. So no tweeting it out. But it started for me because it's about youth sports, and that's organic to me. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for sports. And I'm not just talking about being a pro athlete. Obviously, that's the case. But, the business stuff I do or the relationships that I build outside of sport or just the way that I operate and the habits I have in daily life, they all came from sport, teamwork, hard work, leadership, accountability, integrity, all of those sorts of things came from the coaches and the different sports that I played growing up. And so I wanted, and I always said, since I was a kid, if I was fortunate to be a pro athlete, I'd, give back to the people and places that helped me get here. And so the way I wanted to do that was through the vehicle of sports. And so I started a foundation called the With Us Foundation, the idea being, when you're a part of it, you feel like you're a part of a team, you're with us, right? And it was to teach the next generation of athletes those translatable life skills. So it's to get them involved in sports, but it's to teach them that you're not all going to be professional athletes, but what are some of the characteristics within sports, like I mentioned, teamwork, hard work, leadership, accountability, all those things that can translate to other areas of your life that you'll carry with you, no matter what direction. You might want to be a doctor, a firefighter, who knows what you want to be, but they can all translate and carry on with you throughout that. And so I started it in 2016. We started with camps and clinics. All NBA guys, or at least the majority of us, do camps and clinics. It's a way for a lot of guys to have another stream of income. For me, it was a donation to the foundation. So I didn't take a dollar from it. I never will. But the camps and clinics we run are so that these kids can learn how sport is fun, but the things that come from it. And so we try to differentiate ourselves. Like, I'm at each day of each camp, of each clinic, hanging around with the kids, having fun, playing, running around, sometimes getting tackled by them. It's really cool for me because you see when they walk in on day one, they're shy. They're not going to say anything to you. They're kind of looking at me like, who are you? Or, who am I, right? Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say I didn't remember your name because we've been buds for the last 2 months. But so it's really cool for me to see when they first come in, they're afraid to come near me. By like the third hour, they're making fun of my purple shoes, or they're hanging on my arms or whatever. And I think as a kid who was once in their shoes, I was fortunate to go to a Celtics camp one time and meet Paul Pierce. You know, he was only there for a day, but for me, seeing him interact and being able to interact with him made me realize, like, he's just another guy, right? Like, you see him on TV and you put them on this pedestal, but it was a powerful moment for me to see that, you know, he's really just another guy. And so when I can hang around with these kids and they can kind of see, well, look, I was once them. I was once in their shoes. I'm no different than what they are right now. I think it really kind of puts some things in perspective for them, even if they don't know it yet, even if the 8-year-old kid doesn't realize it. And so it just kind of has continued to grow. And so I wanted to find ways to have an impact more, because I do have a day job. Some would argue 2 day jobs. Yeah. And I can't run camps and clinics all the time, right? So I was only able to do that 2 to 3 times a year. So then we built it to, how can we partner with places? I grew up at a place called Fidelity House. It's like a boys and girls club, right? And it had a really small, tiny gym, but we used it for everything: kickball, floor hockey, basketball. It's where I learned how to play the game of basketball, and I learned a lot of these things. But they had a volunteer club. They taught you the importance of what it was to give your time to volunteer at the soup kitchen, or downtown at like the clothing place. And so they taught it what it was like to take care of it. Like, you had to work the snack shop and you had to do all these different things where they really were about a holistic picture. And so I wanted to find places like that to partner with, because if they had 2 courts, think about how many more kids they'd be able to have and share those experiences with and impact along the way. And so we partnered with Neighborhood House here in Milwaukee, and we redid that court. And it's now they have a volleyball league that runs out of it, a basketball program that runs out of it. And they are, instead of being able to, you know, impact 100 kids every week, they can impact 500 kids every single week. And so trying to find ways that we can continue to grow, and now trying to find ways where we can have our own programming, where we're still partnering with other places that are doing great stuff. We're still running our camps and clinics, but how can we have our own program where we're teaching these kids the things that are important within sport that can translate to where we're scholarshiping some of these kids who want to go to a better high school or to a college someday, and really have an impact on how these kids, and change the direction, I guess, of some of these kids' lives, because you know, they're powerful stories.
It's really powerful. So I don't get to do this often, but I have a microphone and a room full of people, so I'll speak for all of Milwaukee in saying that we really do feel lucky that the soon-to-be named Pat Connaughton Foundation has landed here, because, like you said, you built the court. Thousands of kids, literally tens of thousands of kids, have had an opportunity to learn life skills through sport through the Pat Connaughton Foundation. So that's special.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's like, at the end of the day, I talk about using my platform, right? I'm using my platform to get indoors, to find ways to invest my money, to find ways to benefit my peers. Mm-hmm. But it's really about benefiting the next generation. It's really about benefiting those who aren't fortunate to be in the positions that we're in right now. And if I can do that through the vehicle of sport, because the vehicle of sport let me go to a college that I had no business of getting into. It let me have a source of income that I had no business of having. It's let me meet people I've had no business of meeting. Like, the power of sport, and the best way that I describe it when I talk to people, like, there's 2 things. One, the problem that I see with youth sports nowadays is a lot of it is driven by money, not driven by the kid's best interest. So I played multiple sports growing up, as we know, but there's a lot of 8, 9, 10-year-olds now that are being told to specialize in one sport if they want to be great at that sport. Well, why are they being told that? Sure, the idea of if you do something 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're going to get better at it. Yeah, I think we all know that's probably true. But I think there's so many youth programs now that are running their youth programs as a business. They know if you have to work with them in the spring, summer, and fall in order to be on their team in the winter, that's income year-round now. Now that's ways that they're making decisions based off the benefit of their business, when I think youth sports should be about the benefit of the kid first. And so with my foundation, that's kind of our goal. And then the idea being, you know, how can we impact maybe not the most kids, because it's going to be difficult to just impact tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of kids every single day, but how can we have the biggest impact on it's like quantity over quality, right? How can we focus on the Milwaukee area because it's a special place to me? How can we focus on the Boston area because it's where I grew up? And how can we start to bring back the kids' best interest in those areas, so that they can use the vehicle of sport to kind of get to where they want to get to and learn the things that they need to learn.
Yeah, youth sports needs it, man. I'll tell you, I referee some youth sports every now and again, and those parents can get pretty ugly. You can just tell that they're probably thinking about the bottom dollar. We're coming up on time, so forgive me for bouncing around a little bit here, but I do want to cover a few more things. We've talked about real estate, Pat. We just touched on foundation, Pat. You recently gave a commencement speech at Madison. I want to talk about corporate speaking / professional speaking, Pat. My first question is, were you nervous? 10,000 people in the crowd. You're not a professional speaker by trade.
So, no, I wasn't that nervous about giving the speech. I was nervous about using the teleprompter, because I hadn't used one of those, and it wasn't just like a teleprompter in front of me. It was a mirror to the teleprompter that was on the ground. So it was kind of backwards. So I was nervous about that a little bit. What I also realized was, like in instances like this, or even when I do some corporate speaking and I have an agenda of what I'm going to talk about, I don't write it down. I kind of just freestyle it. Like, I have my points I'm going to get to, but I just want to have an open conversation. I think it's better to do it that way. You can tell it's a little bit more passionate or whatever. It's a 20-minute speech. I had to write that one down. It's not easy to write down your thoughts on a piece of paper and make them all flow together eloquently. So I needed to call in some reinforcement help on that. Maybe not the Carl Ackerman of Notre Dame, but our English professor of Notre Dame. And so that part was difficult. And then for me, I just, for that one, I really wanted to find a message that would relate to these kids. I'm only 28 years old. A lot of them were 22, 23. Like, there's not that much of an age difference. So everyone saw the championship, right? I wanted to make sure I touched on it, but at the end of the day, I wanted to leave them with something that they could kind of take with them. And so figuring out what that was and putting myself in a position where I could be relatable to them, kind of like I do with my camps and clinics. Like, how can I be relatable to the 9-year-old kid, because I was once 9-year-old Pat. That part became more challenging than I thought.
Sure. You want to do more of it. You enjoy it. What kind of events do you look for? What's an ideal event that you'd like to speak at? I
like to talk. I like to
fair enough.
I like to have conversations that can really help and put real tangible next steps in front of people, right? So, like, how can I take what we've done or what I've seen in sport? Like, at the end of the day, think about it this way. There are a countless amount of different walks of life of my peers in which we play with. Somehow you have to get someone who's like me, who grew up in the suburbs of Boston, Massachusetts, and worked on construction sites growing up, to play at a high level and to be in continuity with a PJ Tucker who's into fashion and wears clothes that you'd never see me in, right? Like, you have so many different walks of life in a locker room in the NBA or in pro sports in general, and you have to somehow bring all of those walks of life together, all those different personalities together, all those different egos together to try to achieve one common goal, and that's to win a game and eventually win a championship. And so finding the things that have worked, that I've seen work, and management of egos, management of different guys' personalities, a lot of those things translate in the business world. A lot of those things are the way that I run my real estate development company, the way that I run my foundation is, how are we going to be able to take a bunch of different personalities and make sure they leave their personal egos at the door? We all want to achieve things personally, but how can we make sure that we align the interests so that the common goal we're trying to reach benefits everybody else at the same time, but not before? So if I want to be sixth man of the year someday, shooting to be sixth man of the year someday is not going to get me to accomplish being sixth man of the year someday as quickly as winning a championship. Because at the end of the day, we get paid because they want us to win games. They want us to win a championship. In business, you get paid because of whatever that business's goal is. How can that business achieve it, and how can you be an asset to achieve that? And so those things, that teamwork, that difference in personalities, like all of those things play a factor in it. And so I really enjoy speaking on it and trying to be a part of it and trying to make sure that people understand, look, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like, that's a message I give to the kids in my camps all the time. That's why I wear the number 24. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. I don't get 26 hours a day. I haven't gotten extra hours to accomplish what I've accomplished. But how we utilize those 24 hours is what determines the outcome of what we're able to accomplish. And so I just think it's something that I think people undervalue a little bit. And it's fun to kind of talk about it and really put it in perspective for different groups of people who are trying to accomplish different things.
A consistent message that you've put through tonight, and I think I may have heard you say it before, and I really like it, is that personal achievement does not always equate to team success, but team success always highlights personal achievements. So 100%. It's always focusing on the greater goal for the team first, and it sounds like Three Leaf is about that, With Us is about that, of course on the court, you guys are all about that. That's the identity of the Bucks.
No, you're 100% right, and that's actually something that when I came back, so I had signing bonus, drafted after my junior year of college. When I decided to come back for basketball, my teammate, Jaron Grant, also had the opportunity to go pro in basketball. He wanted to come back. We were 15-17 my junior year at Notre Dame. It was one of our worst seasons ever. The first thing we did after I got back from playing pro baseball, the first thing we did was we sat down with everybody and we had a conversation in the locker room. List out what your personal goals are. We had a whiteboard, everyone listed them out, and we used that exact comment. We said, hey, look, personal goals don't guarantee team success, but team success guarantees personal goals. You might not average 15 points a game, but you might only average 12. But if we're winning, that 12 goes a lot longer than that 15. And so that's something that I think in today's day and age has gotten lost in translation a little bit. Everybody looks at stats, everybody looks at personal achievements, but the personal accolades come along a lot quicker and they're a lot more satisfying if you've been able to help accomplish something that's greater than just yourself. Yeah. And I enjoy kind of talking about it. And I mean, look, one of the things I was going to say with regards to the foundation and why I think sport is so important is, and something that I've used a few times, is think back to Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Like, for those 3 hours, no matter what's going on in this city, no matter if it's social injustice problems, no matter if it's financial problems, no matter if it's diversity issues, whatever the case may be, for those 3 hours, the entire city was focused on one thing and was rooting for one thing, was cheering for one thing, was a part of the same thing together. And like, that's the power of sport. The power of sport can bring a bunch of people together. So how can I use that platform of sport to bring athletes together, to better invest their money so they don't go broke, to bring the next generation of youth athletes together so that their interests are put first and that they're able to accomplish things that they aspire to accomplish someday, to bring corporate speaking or corporate businesses together so that they can kind of continue or do better in finding win-wins or finding ways to better motivate their employees, or for their impact to be more about the greater good than just monetary. I mean, there's a bunch of different things, but I think it all starts with that team type camaraderie.
Who am I to say any different? I think it's great. We're coming up on time here, so I do just want to ask you one more question. But before I do that, I just, of course, want to thank you one more time. People don't know, you're 28, yeah? Turning 29 in January?
Yep.
I checked that out. I'll say happy birthday to Pat eventually.
Yeah.
So one last question, and then we'll wrap. And I promised that I would take y'all on the timeline from young Pat to Notre Dame to Portland and Milwaukee, and now in the future. So 80-year-old Pat.
Whoa.
What does he look like? Well, not physically, but what did he accomplish? What did he get up to after sports? I'm sure a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, but just what's the future?
Wow, great question. Win 5 or 6 championships in Milwaukee.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would say, for me, I just enjoy the things that I do, right? Like I enjoy bringing people together. I enjoy bringing good, like-minded people together to kind of accomplish things and have an impact on things. And so, excuse me, I've done it through things that are organic to me. And that's, real estate. I'll always do real estate, finding ways to invest back into the city so that the city continues to be a better place, and doing it by bringing together good, like-minded athletes and, men and women of, that have been mentors to me, and kind of creating that culture of how can you invest back into a city so you're solving a problem there or creating something that's better, while also then finding a way to put athletes and other people in a better position to earn passive income. That's a win-win. And so same thing with the foundation. How can we grow a foundation that is able to raise a lot of money because we're able to have a lot of an impact? And that's another win-win. And so I don't know exactly what it looks like. I try to take it day by day. I have a lot of things that go on every single day. Most importantly, the basketball for the time being. And so I don't know what it looks like, but I'm excited to continue to try to better myself and better the people around me.
Yeah. Obviously, I speak once again for everyone in the room. We're excited to
appreciate it.
Come along the journey, man. And guys, we're gonna wrap here. Why don't we just one more time? If you got anything left in your glass, let's raise it to Pat for coming here one time. Appreciate you, Pat. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Hey, stick around. Grab another Carbliss. We'll be out and about.